At 02:47 local time, 5 Ukrainian FP2 drones are screaming through occupied Crimea at 120 kilometers per hour towards this Russian train bound for a depot that will swallow it in 87 minutes. The drones have exactly that long to cross 160 kilometers of hostile airspace, find the train, and destroy it. The math works, but barely. And 40 kilometers ahead, a Russian Kosta 2E2 radar operator is about to make that math much harder. The antenna rotates every 4 seconds, its beam sweeping north at light speed. The operator watches his screen fill with contacts: a truck on the M18, a water tower near Armyansk, a flock of birds scattering weak returns that flicker and vanish, 300 blips demanding attention on every sweep. There, northern sector, a faint return, 38 kilometers out, moving south at 120 kilometers per hour. He leans forward. At low altitude, radar sees everything: ground clutter, cars, weather. The software filters most of it using Doppler shift, same physics that make the ambulance siren sound higher as it approaches and lower as it drives away. Radar waves do the same thing. Stationary objects reflect at the original frequency and disappear. Moving objects stay on screen. But here's the problem. A drone at 120 kilometers per hour creates the same frequency shift as a car on the highway below it. A flock of birds looks almost identical to a small drone dipping in and out of terrain. When a contact appears on one sweep, vanishes the next, and shows up somewhere else on the third, the computer has to guess. Usually it guesses wildlife and moves on. The operator can override that judgment, but only if he has a reason. And right now, he has one. There shouldn't be any air traffic in this sector right now. The contact appears again on the next sweep. Same heading, same speed. 36 kilometers now. His finger moves toward the alert key. 170 kilometers south, the train passes a checkpoint. 82 minutes to the depot now. The window is already shrinking, and it's about to get even smaller. Third sweep. The contact is still there. 35 kilometers now, closing steadily. The operator's hand hovers over the alert key. One more clean sweep and he escalates, calls it in, wakes up the entire air defense network. He watches the antenna complete its rotation, beam washing across the northern sector. Gone. The drone dropped into a shallow valley 4 kilometers long, a valley Ukrainian planners identified from satellite imagery weeks ago. Radar travels in straight lines, but the Earth curves away beneath it. A transmitter 14 meters tall can only see targets above the radar horizon. Drop below that line, behind a ridge, into a valley, and the beam passes overhead like sunlight over a shadow. The operator waits. Fourth sweep. Nothing. Fifth sweep. A blip appears on the far side of the valley, but the track has been broken too long. The computer reclassifies it as possible wildlife. Just another bird. Just another false alarm in a screen full of false alarms. He stares at the display for a long moment. Something felt wrong about that contact. The heading was too consistent, the speed too steady. Birds don't fly in straight lines at 120 kilometers per hour for 3 consecutive sweeps. But the computer says wildlife. The track is broken, and he has 300 other contacts demanding attention. He exhales, takes his finger off the alert key, checks his watch. 02:53. 3 hours until shift change. Nothing unusual tonight. 4 more FP2s follow the same path over the next 6 minutes, treading through the valley that Ukrainian planners mapped specifically for this approach. The Kosta logs 0 confirmed tracks, $60 million of hardware designed specifically to catch exactly these targets, defeated by a 4-kilometer depression in the earth and software that couldn't tell a weapon from a bird. Fuel remaining, 68%. Train distance to depot, 65 kilometers. The drones are through the first layer, but the operators in Kherson know what's waiting in central Crimea, and compared to what comes next, that radar was a warm-up. The GPS indicator flickers once, shows garbage, and then goes dark. The lead Ukrainian operator doesn't panic. He expected this. Somewhere below, Russian Pol 21 jammers mounted on cell towers are pumping 20 watts of noise into the sky. The GPS satellites, 20,000 kilometers overhead, are transmitting at 1/10 billionth of a watt, a whisper from space against a scream from the ground. Trying to hear them through that static is like trying to hear someone talking at a rock concert. The satellites are still there. The drone just can't hear them anymore. Ukraine loses hundreds of drones a month to this. Without GPS, cheap quadcopters have no idea where they are. They wander off course like your wife in Target when she spots the seasonal aisle. And you can yell her name all you want, but she's not hearing you over those throw pillows. The drones are the same. The operators send commands, but nothing gets through to the static. They circle uselessly until their batteries drain and drop into fields where nobody finds them. The feed just goes dark. The FP2 was built for exactly this problem. The moment GPS fails, 3 ring laser gyroscopes and 3 accelerometers take over. The gyroscopes measure rotation by racing laser beams around triangular paths. When the drone turns, one beam travels slightly farther than the other, creating a frequency shift measured in billionths of a meter. No moving parts, no gears, just light racing around glass, measuring every turn the aircraft makes. The accelerometers track velocity by measuring how a tiny mass shifts against microscopic springs. The navigation computer fuses everything together, continuously updating position based on the last known GPS fix. The math is elegant. The problem is drift. Small sensor errors accumulate over time. A gyroscope measuring 0.01 degrees per second when the drone is actually flying straight adds up to 36 degrees of phantom rotation over an hour. An accelerometer with a tiny bias, maybe 0.001 g, accumulates as phantom velocity, then phantom distance. The navigation computer uses something called a Kalman filter to minimize these errors, continuously weighing each sensor's reliability against the others and calculating the most probable position. But even the best filter can't eliminate drift entirely. Over a 90-minute flight, position uncertainty can grow to 5 or 8 kilometers, enough to miss a target entirely if you're flying autonomous to GPS coordinates. But the FP2 isn't autonomous. The operator can see live video from the nose camera. He'll steer by eye when it counts. He just needs the instruments to get him close enough to find the target. The jamming network blanketing Crimea, designed to knock drones out of the sky, might as well be an expensive radio station playing static to an audience that isn't listening. Fuel remaining, 54%. INS uncertainty, 2.8 kilometers. Train distance to depot, 52 kilometers. The window is still open. Then something unexpected happens. The GPS indicator flickers back to life. Signal acquired. 4 satellites. Position fix valid. The operator frowns. Jamming this deep into Crimea runs 24/7. No gaps, no windows. The drone didn't climb, didn't cross into clear airspace. Nothing changed. Then he looks at the coordinates. According to GPS, his drone is flying 12 kilometers east of where the camera shows it should be. The roads in this video don't match the roads at the GPS position. A water tower visible in the feed doesn't exist at those coordinates. Nothing lines up. This isn't jamming. Jamming drowns the signal. This is something worse. A GPS spoofer like you see here broadcasts fake satellite signals, identical format, false timing, creating phantom coordinates that don't exist. GPS receivers calculate position by measuring the time delay from multiple satellites. Change those timing values by a few nanoseconds and you shift the calculated position by meters. Change them by microseconds and you shift it by kilometers. The receiver locks into the lie because a ground transmitter will always overpower satellites 20,000 kilometers away. An autonomous drone trusting those false coordinates flies toward nothing. A sophisticated spoofer can feed fake altitude data, convince the autopilot it's 500 meters higher than reality, and watch the drone correct itself straight into the ground at cruise speed. The Russians built this system to take out Ukrainian drones without firing a shot. Elegant, cheap, effective. Against the FP2, completely useless. Those backup instruments never stopped running. When GPS suddenly claims the drone teleported 12 kilometers without the accelerometers detecting movement, without the gyroscopes registering a turn, the computer knows the satellite signals are lying. Physical objects don't teleport. The math doesn't lie, even when the signals do. But that's not all Russian spoofers can do. Real GPS signals come from satellites scattered across the sky, each arriving from different angles. A ground spoofer broadcasts from one location, all signals arriving from the same direction at the same time. The software checks for this. If all the signals come from the exact same angle, they're fake. The spoof signals fail that test too. The operator toggles GPS off. False coordinates vanish. Back to backup instruments. Uncertainty circle growing again. But honest uncertainty beats confident lies. The whole thing costs 30 seconds. 30 seconds of confusion, verification, reset. Meanwhile, the train covered another 600 meters toward safety. Fuel remaining, 41%. INS uncertainty, 4.1 kilometers. Train distance to depot, 35 kilometers. The window that was barely enough is now barely not enough. The operator pushes the throttle forward, trading fuel for speed. Somewhere ahead, a train is still rolling through the darkness. He has maybe 10 minutes to find it, before the depot's air defense umbrella makes finding it irrelevant. The operator switches to thermal and starts scanning the rail line. In infrared, steel tracks glow faint and cold. Metal conducts heat faster than soil, so the rails have dropped below ambient temperature in the December night, radiating their stored warmth into the freezing air faster than the ground around them. Dark lines against warmer fields. The thermal camera doesn't see light, it sees temperature differences, converting infrared radiation into grayscale images where hot objects glow white and cold objects fade to black. He follows the tracks north from the depot, methodical, grip tight on the joystick, video feed scrolling at 30 frames per second. 3 seconds of empty track. 4. 5. Then he sees it. Bright white signature moving south, locomotive engine blazing against frozen fields. Behind it, rectangular shapes in a line, tank cars glowing faintly from residual warmth from the fuel inside. He counts them. 23 cars, diesel and aviation gas that will never reach Russian forward units if he has anything to say about it. But it's closer than the depot than he'd hoped, 20 kilometers out, rolling at 40 kilometers per hour, maybe 4 minutes before he reaches the air defense umbrella. He has a choice: wait for the train to stop at the depot and strike a stationary target, easy geometry, high probability, or strike now while it moves and burning wreckage blocks the rail line for days. He chooses now, but that's easier said than done. Most strike drones fly autonomous to GPS coordinates: buildings, parked aircraft, fuel tanks, anything that holds still. But a train at 40 kilometers per hour covers 330 meters during the 30 seconds of final approach. GPS guidance would miss by 3 football fields. The FP2 keeps a human in the loop until impact, steering by eye toward a target that won't stop moving. 170 kilometers away in Kherson, the operator's video feed travels through a relay drone orbiting at high altitude, a mirror in the sky, bending the signal around the Earth's curve. When he nudges the joystick, the command travels up to the relay, down to the FP2, and into the flight computer. 200 milliseconds of latency. He has to lead his inputs, aiming where the target will be, not where it is. He drops the drone to 20 meters, grass-cutting altitude, invisible to most radar, throttle back to match the train's speed, 400 meters behind and closing. Inside the locomotive cab, the engineer has no idea what's coming. His instruments show a quiet night, green lights across every panel, fuel pressure steady, speed holding at 40 kilometers per hour. Through his widescreen, he sees dark fields, distant village lights, stars scattered across a clear winter sky. The rumble of 4,000 tons of fuel behind him drowns out everything else. He's been running this route for 3 months, the same schedule, the same checkpoints, the same radio calls. Tonight was supposed to be routine. The depot was 12 kilometers away. In 4 minutes, he'd hand off the cargo, grab coffee, and wait for the return run. He had no idea those 4 minutes would never arrive. If he knew where to look, he might glimpse a dark shape crossing those stars. He doesn't know. 200 meters behind now. 100. The operator picks his target. 3rd tank car behind the locomotive, far enough back that the impact won't just derail the engine and let the rest coast free. Close enough that what follows spreads both directions along the train. Fuel remaining, 19%. Distance, 50 meters. Crosshairs locked. The second FP2 is 800 meters behind the first, lining up on a different car. The third is angling towards the rear of the train. 4th and 5th have already broken south toward the depot itself, 12 kilometers ahead, and they've been detected. The depot's Pantsir S-1 picks them up on thermal imaging at 8 kilometers. 2 small signatures approaching at 120 kilometers per hour, altitude 20 meters. The radar, designed to track cruise missiles and fighter jets, filters them out as ground clutter. The operator curses under his breath and switches to electro-optical mode, tracking manually through what amounts to be a very expensive telescope with guns attached. His twin 2A38M autocannons can pump out 5,000 rounds per minute. At this range, he has maybe 15 seconds of engagement time before the drones reach maximum range, 500 meters, where the guns physically cannot depress low enough to track ground skimmers. Every weapon system has geometry limits. The Pantsir's turret can depress to -5 degrees, which means anything below that angle relative to the horizon becomes untouchable. This system was designed for cruise missiles and aircraft approaching from above, not dinner plate-sized targets hugging the terrain. He opens fire. The 30mm rounds use programmable airburst fusing. A tiny radar in each shell's nose measures distance to target. Matches the preset value, the round detonates. Each one fragments into roughly 400 pieces of steel shrapnel expanding in a 4-meter sphere. At 5,000 rounds per minute, he's creating overlapping destruction zones faster than the drones can fly through them. The 4th drone vanishes at 2,100 meters, shrapnel through the battery pack, 1 down. The 5th drone immediately drops to 10 meters and jinks hard left, below the Pantsir's depression limit now, using the terrain as cover. The gunner tries to reacquire, transversing his turret, but the barrels are already glowing cherry red from sustained fire. At 5,000 rounds per minute, each barrel is cycling 40 times per second, and the friction of brass cartridges plus the heat of burning propellant adds up fast. Steel barrels start losing temper around 400 degrees Celsius. The rifling grooves that spin the rounds begin to erode, then deform. He has to cease fire, let the barrels cool, 12 seconds minimum. The 5th drone pushes through the gap, fuel remaining 7%. The depot's storage tanks loom in the thermal display, cylindrical shapes behind concrete walls designed to contain spills, not deflect warheads. 3 minutes from the depot. Everything is lined up. Now or never. The first FP2 hits the 3rd tank car at 03:57 local time. 105 kilograms of high explosive punches through steel into 40,000 liters of diesel. Fuel sprays into the void, mixes with air, and ignites. Diesel doesn't detonate like gasoline, it burns. But 40,000 liters burning inside of a ruptured pressure vessel makes the distinction academic. Temperature at the center exceeds 1,000 degrees Celsius. Steel softens at 500. Inside the cab, the engineer is thrown against his console. Warning lights cascade across every panel. Through his rear window, he sees orange light painting the sky, his cargo transforming into a wall of fire behind him. He reaches for the radio to report. The depot needs to know. The 2nd FP2 hits before he can key the mic. With the train immobilized, geometry gets easy. The 2nd operator picks a car near the rear, spread the destruction, ensure nothing survives. Impact. Another fireball climbs into the December night. The 3rd drone follows 8 seconds later, striking the center of the formation, turning the rail line into a corridor of burning fuel stretching 400 meters in both directions. 12 kilometers south, the 5th drone is on final approach to the bitumen depot. The operator picks his target, fuel storage tanks. With nowhere to store fuel, the pipes that move fuel from rail cars to storage to trucks are worthless. Distance 200 meters. Battery warning flashes red. 4% remaining. 100 meters. 3%. The motor's cut out at 50 meters from the target. Props windmill uselessly, no longer generating thrust. But the drone is still moving at 120 kilometers per hour, 33 meters per second, with minimal frontal area. The disabled drone coasts home on physics alone. Impact. The tank detonates, pumps rupture, pipes shear. Fuel sprays across the manifold and ignites. Secondary explosions ripple through the depot as fire spreads tank to tank, each one adding to a conflagration that lights up the southern sky. The Pantsir gunner watches his screen, barrels still cooling. $20 million of air defense technology sitting useless, while a drone that was technically already out of power completes its mission. He pounds his fists on the console. One drone got through. One was enough. Every fuel shipment now scheduled for that corridor gets rerouted through depots already running thin. Depots that Ukrainian intelligence is already watching. Bye for now.